All right. So we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for this free online webinar, part of our free online webinar series. Today we're going to be discussing energy and circuits in primary school. And what's neat about this is we're going to discuss this in the context and in the usage of augmented reality, which is sort of, part of this cutting edge in the world of education. This is part of that cutting edge technology that we're seeing emerge. So this is a great opportunity for us to get you started on that early. And so today your presenters include myself, JJ, but more importantly, Amanda Thompson, who is the CEO of Explore Interactive, and Explore Interactive is responsible for the Mindlabs product that you see there in this slide. And so she's going to be discussing how this tool is used to teach energy and circuits in primary school and show you the details surrounding how it works with augmented reality, some of the lessons therein. And of course, this is something that I'm happy to provide more information about maybe at the end of the webinar. We can follow up and you can feel free to email me. Our email addresses are right there. But this product can be purchased from PASCO or directly from Explore Interactives as well. So, and I can talk more about and show you how to find resources for that in just a second too. Before we dig deeper, I want to go over a couple of housekeeping notes associated with Zoom. We're using Zoom Webinar, and Zoom Webinar isn't vastly different than Zoom web conferencing in general. The one thing you may notice, though, is that you are muted by default. So all of the participants that are here with us today, as you enter the webinar, you come muted. If you have a question, you can feel free to use that raise hand button right there. If you click that, I'll see that. I'll sort of be monitoring, not sort of, I will be monitoring the chat and noticing to see if anyone has questions or anything like that. Amanda and I can take time to answer those. But you're going to have to click that raise hand button before we can either activate your audio. And if you don't feel comfortable doing that in real time, you're always welcome to ask questions in the Q&A section of the Zoom webinar interface. And so you can just click that Q&A button right there. It'll bring up this little panel that says question and answer. And you can post your question there. Everybody's going to be able to see your question. It'll give me an opportunity to answer the question, as well as other participants that are with us today can take time if they feel so obligated to answer the question as well. But the question stays posted and it'll stay in there as an open question if no one's had a chance to answer it yet, and we can stop and take time to address those through audio too if we need. And then the last button there in that toolbar is the chat button. And if you click the chat button, it brings up this chat interface, and you can always throw in chat items in there if you want to talk to everybody in the group. Like I'll do right now, I'll say hello, and so everybody can see my message, my hello message. But if you want to address somebody in particular, you can also do that. You just need to click where that left red arrow is pointing right there. And select the person that you want to send your direct message to. And that could be somebody that's just the panelists, which are Amanda and myself, or anybody else individually that's participating in the webinar. Or if you want to send it to everyone, like I just did, just make sure it says everyone and you should be good to go. And so having gone over that, I wanted to mention as well too, before I go forward, this webinar session also has an opportunity for you to receive a certificate of completion. And the certificate of completion is just that. It indicates that you've undergone this about hour-long webinar. And there is a short quiz, 3 short questions that you'll have to take and answer correctly to some degree to receive that certificate of completion. And I will give everyone that link near the end of the webinar. And there will also be some resources that Amanda is going to show you in just a second and share with you as well. And so having said that, stand by to the near the end at some point, and I will post that URL, and I will also throw it in the chat window for you. So having said that, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to hand the floor over to Amanda Thompson, like I said, CEO of Explore Interactive, and we're very, very happy to have her here. And so the floor is all yours, Amanda. Thank you. Your audio.
And fortuitously, my doorbell just rang, so it was good to miss that on the audio. Thank you, JJ, for the intro. I'm happy to be here and to be talking about how augmented reality is emerging as a technology that can be really outstanding in classroom implementations for STEM. So I'm sharing my screen for you to see here. I do have opportunities for you to be do hands-on applications of what we're working on today. So if in this brief intro, and I'll leave that name up for a moment, you have a chance to go to either the Google Play Store or the App Store on a second device, then you can use the materials that will be showing on your screen to have the interaction with the content that will give you a flavor of what it will look like for students who are interacting. So that's the Mindlabs Energy and Circuits app. So again, you can use that right as we are online here just to get a flavor of what we're doing. But again, I have also set it up so we can go both directions. So our topic today, as JJ mentioned, is energy and circuits in primary school, featuring augmented reality and an opportunity to do these types of hands-on interactive group engagements, whether you're in the same classroom or at home. And here I say it's featuring my alter ego Dr. Pixel, who you'll see crops up here in some of the course materials and videos. Now, I didn't dye my hair for today. I put clips, if you couldn't tell, put clips in when I play that character. And she is our materials follow a storyline, and so she is a character in the storyline that just happens to look like me. No, really. I wanted to start with just a brief video to give you a visual picture of how it works, because I know that sometimes for things like this, it's hard to envision. So I'm just going to let you watch really quickly. It's only about 30 seconds, so you'll get an idea of what I'm talking about as I get started here. Okay, so just as a teaser about what the interactions can look like from the children, and then we'll go into depth on each of those. So I wanted to start with just the topic of AR in general. I know for some of you, it's a newer topic. It's something that maybe you haven't had a lot of experience with. So I kind of wanted to give you the motivation to do that fixed upfront cost to get familiar with it because of how big it's going to be. So Tim Cook of Apple says that he thinks that AR is going to change our lives as much as the iPhone or the smartphone, let's not just say the iPhone, as much as the smartphone has. So it's going to be that integrated into our daily life, not too far in the future. So, it is something that's coming and will have a big impact.
And then we have a poll. You want to launch a poll real quick?
Yes, so I did have a quick poll to do there on that front. So there we go. So I wanted to get a sense of the audience, how much you knew about AR as we talk about this. Now, I actually have a couple general slides, so I'll just leave that up for a moment while we talk. In the workplace, it's already something that's becoming very common. And as we have experienced remote work, we can see even more the applications of it. So we have engineering design applications, we have more artistic design applications, but we also have communication applications and data communication, as well as audio visual interactions type of communications are all things that are going to move towards augmented reality in the future. The difference between augmented reality and virtual reality being that these images appear in your own workspace, where you still see the people and spaces around you, as opposed to being isolated within an entirely virtual world. So you can see these items are on the desktop or tabletop for the participants to view, and they may be in the same room interacting with the people that are there, or they may be remote and still interacting with the same content. And that's kind of, we will demonstrate both of those applications. It's also big in education, visualization, guidance. So here's a couple of education examples. So taking one image and overlaying some more information, allowing interaction, allowing data visualization, particularly here. So with sensors and understanding what the data you're receiving from sensors, or a plot, the 3D plot, what that could look like, as well as interactions in your everyday life. So with all that, the purpose being that it is something that's going to make an impact. And so why not take a stab at it and get started looking at it? So if we look at the poll, poll results here, oops, share results. It looks like most of you are on the I am just getting started at AR, which is great because we are very much adapted to first-time users of augmented reality. So all you need to be able to use the augmented reality Mindlabs is a handheld device, whether it's a phone or a tablet. Download an app, and other than the actual physical product, which JJ showed you at the front, you're ready to go. So I also have a box here. So this is the chew set. The classroom set has 6 of these different decks, which are what your students would use to play with the game. And those are, chipboard level cards that the students would interact with. Okay, so just a quick agenda for the day. I wanted to start with just motivating AR in general. So I think we've done that pretty well, and talked about the large impact, the large opportunity that augmented reality is going to bring into the world, and education being one of them. I'll go next into just an overview of the different ways that we implement AR in the STEM learning in the elementary school classrooms, look at a couple of case studies of how to use it, where you'll get to interact with the materials as well, and then show the classroom supports that are available and where to find them. So this image is familiar from the video. So these are the 2 children interacting together. The tabletop, they do have the tablet mounted, which can be better for younger users, and that's available also at PASCO, or it can be held like these 2 girls are playing it on the floor together, or handheld on a cell phone device. All right, so I was going to show another video, but I'm going to actually talk over this video to show you the main elements of the system and the places where you could see or you could implement it in your classroom, the two different areas. Now this is sometimes a little bit. All right.
So, Amanda, the audio is a little tough to hear in the video. If you stop sharing your screen and reshare, and I think there's a little button to share the computer audio.
So I'm actually not going to share the computer audio. I'm gonna narrate this one myself. So no worries on that front.
Sorry, thanks.
Okay, so here's the character that directs one half of the experience. His name is Adam, and he and his partner robot Anne are working together to thwart the evil villain that we'll see here in just a minute. Now, the students can work together on a single tablet. So these ones, you're showing a different iPad mount here, where some of the students are working through the exercise independently. This is what one of the exercises could look like. We feature inside of the app these animated sort of vocabulary cards. So they connect to a physical card, but when the child holds it under the camera, as he's showing there, it animates, and we'll get a chance to look at that. Here's the 2 working together on a single device. So they're working to solve a problem together. This is exactly what their screens are showing as they're working on that. And they were working to get that light bulb to light up. There is another way to interact using the more open-ended space, where the students can create their own designs. And these 2 were working together, and that went by a little quickly. I'm going to bring that back over for us to look at again. So these 2, come on. Oh, sorry about that. Let me get. These 2 are working together they're looking at the set of cards on the table together, but they could have their own set of cards, and they're working on creating a system to achieve a certain goal. And I'm actually going to talk about that specific goal, but together they're moving cards in and out, adding pieces, flipping the switches, adding wires. to try to get this to work. So you can see her bringing in that battery or him sliding in a different battery. So those are some of the ways that the students can interact in the classroom with the materials. And we kind of have this save the day with STEM mantra. And also this pulls up our nice connection to some federal grants that we received. So this video is actually available under the Ed Games header for this year. So that just gives an overview, again, of watching people interact with it, so you can get a good visualization of that. And then here's the two key pieces. So within the app, there's two sections. One section is more of a guided or practice space, and we center that around the idea of troubleshooting, which I'll talk about more today here in just a minute. So troubleshooting challenges. So here, for an example, they get a circuit that's not working. They're trying to figure out how to use a switch. Now, obviously, this is a pretty straightforward one, but they're asked to complete the circuit to include the switch in their circuit design. Okay, and again, here's another example of an animated card that they would view. So this is the switch card that they could view during this lesson. And as soon as they view it under their viewer, it starts to do that animation to envision how a switch works to open and close the circuit. So that's one half. And the other half is to do the collaborative design environment. And I wanted to highlight once again that these two students don't have to be in the same class to be doing this. They can be in their own house in a different state. You know, one can be at school, one not at school. They can be in different classrooms, but they each can interact with their own set of cards, but work on the same shared Google Doc, if you will, of AR. And this space is really flexible. If some of you are doing circuit exercises already in your classroom, you can integrate a design piece with this open-ended space that allows the students to work prototype and design work inside of the AR environment to test and build their designs up before you actually disperse out any physical materials if you use physical materials. So within the kit, there's the typical circuit sets of buzzers, different sorts of batteries, 3-volt batteries, and light bulbs, switches, fans, and an LED. So those are all pieces that are in a typical elementary age classroom circuit set. Okay, and some of the work to support this is provided initially by both the National Science Foundation and National Institutes of Health under their SBIR grant program, and in collaboration with some researchers at the Purdue Engineering Education Department. So pretty great collaborators on putting this together. So I want to move next to actually getting to look at it. So we're going to look at using the app to do troubleshooting, how this integrates with some other key classroom objectives like literacy with notebooking, and then the digital design piece as well. So one of our tenets that we rely on in the app is called troubleshooting. And so what I wanted to do with that is just give you a quick introduction of what we mean by troubleshooting, and then look at what creates trouble in the circuits. Now, our villain here, Dr. Stonebreaker, is featured across some of our lesson plans. So slides like this are included with our lesson plans that integrate the characters as well into this, into the storyline progression of working through these concepts. So we'll look at some resources that are available to you following the webinar, talk about troubleshooting a little bit, and then look at an example in a circuit. So this work is based on some papers out of Purdue by Dr. Monica Cardella and her team, and David Crismond, that work on, that introduce the concept of troubleshooting and study it in children. So troubleshooting she defines as a problem-solving ability and thinking process for any STEM system. So some of those are very key words for us as educators: problem-solving skills. It's when we do design-based troubleshooting that helps us develop strategies to diagnose and fix a system. So again, these are words that kind of trigger good things in our curriculum and our understanding of the standards. So understanding systems, identifying problems, developing solutions, and making improvements. And she goes on to say, this is a fundamental part of the design process but many inexperienced designers either skip it or do not pay careful attention when conducting it. I'd say in the classroom, what typically happens in design projects is you just don't have time for it when you're trying to implement it in a physical activity. So a lot of times you'll have an activity for the students to design a solution, but it's kind of one bite at the apple. And if it doesn't work, there's not the materials or the time to revise and update and improve. So that's where augmented reality can really give you the ability to have students work through this process and troubleshoot their own designs before or exclusively going to a physical activity. So what do we mean by troubleshooting? Well, troubleshooting she describes as a 4-step process. First is observe. So you observe the system. And this, we're going to apply it to circuits, but this applies to any system. Observe, diagnose, explain, and fix. So in the observe segment, you're looking at a system that's operating and trying to figure out what is not working, what is the element that seems to be the problem within the system that's not working. Then you have to diagnose. So what might be some of the reasons that the system isn't working the way you think it, or you want it to, or you think it should? So that's in the diagnose phase. And of course, most of us are familiar with that word in settings such as health. And then we move to explain, how could I change my system to make an improvement? And then last, to go and actually take action, use your information and to make that change. So this is the full troubleshooting loop. It fits actually within the engineering design process as well, if you're familiar with that, kind of within the test phase. So the test phase is kind of where all of these happen within the engineering design process. So this diagnosing or troubleshooting a problem allows students to really practice and apply their scientific principles. So it's developing in students the ability to make principled decisions. So what do I change? What do I do to my system to make it achieve the goal I want to? So beginning designers, they say, use an unfocused approach, whereas informed or more practiced designers pay attention on crucial problem areas during this troubleshooting process. So it's a really great skill to equip your students with. So I wanted to give you a chance to try it out. So if you have the device in hand, I'll show you what you can do to try it out. So most of you are viewing this presentation perhaps on a laptop or a desktop monitor. If you have, like most of us do, right beside us, some other sort of device, a tablet or a phone, that's where you'd have the app. So I have it on my phone here, and I can open up the app on my phone.
And Amanda, when I'm in the App Store and I'm looking, I can just type in Mindlabs and it comes up, correct?
Mindlabs, and sometimes you'll need to start going to Energy as well. But yes, it will come up. From Mindlabs, Energy, and Circuits onto this, your second device. Give you a second to do that. So it does have that little bubbly butterfly as the logo. Oh my gosh, my volume is turned way up on mine. Woo! All right, so exciting music. The kids always perk up when they hear that music. So once you have that, again, I have this set up so you can either try it yourself or kind of follow along with what we're going to do here. So within the app, you're going to see a first menu that offers you the two key areas, the challenges, which are the troubleshooting area, as well as the open-ended create. So we're going to start with the challenges section. And the activity we're going to look at is within the short circuit section. So there's a little lesson at the front end of the short circuits. That's the yellow, or it's probably white on yours because the orange indicates I've done it. But we're going to look instead at challenge 1. So if you're following along, and you need a little more time, just go ahead and put up a emoticon or leave us a chat, and I'm happy to take a little more time to wait for you to do so. Okay, so as you open the app, there is some important information or some reminders that will help this work better for you. So first of all, when you're using the app, the robot characters are key to directing the activity. So they should be kept on screen while you're working through any of the activities. Lighting is also important for augmented reality work. So the camera is recognizing the image. And if, I can see on my camera here that if it's too reflective, it will have trouble recognizing the image. So too poor or too bright of light can make it difficult for these activities to work very well. And if you are struggling to get it to recognize, a good first thing is to kind of bring it up to the camera. So if, holding it like they're showing there, and you can get the image to read that, right? So that's just a few tips to getting going. And with that, we'll give it a go. So the first thing that I have ready for us to do is to look at one of these troubleshooting activities. So if you take your device and aim it right at the screen that you're looking at, you should see the robot character pop up, and right at on his lap or right in front of him would be a circuit. Okay, so aim your device there. Now, obviously, this is not the angle your students would be working at it. They would be looking at a tabletop. And as well, this is a computer screen, so it will be a little more jittery than what you'd find with the physical cards. But it's as simple as that. You open the app and point it at the card that's sitting on the desk. All right, I'm going to keep this card open for those of you who are trying to do this on your own, but I'm also going to walk you through what it looks like, what the people that are working on it on an app would see as well. So again, you're in the challenges area looking at short circuits. We're doing challenge 1. You'd point it at them above. And if you want, the interactions that you can do right now is to interact with those wires and the items on your screen to move the wires where you want to. So let's go look at what you see. So those of you who are looking at it within the app will see right at Adam's feet this circuit. Okay, so this is where we begin the troubleshooting process. Look at the circuit, see what you think. What do you see? What do you see that you think is going on with this circuit? And then we'll move on to the next stage of troubleshooting. So you'd ask your students first to kind of study and look at the system that they're trying to improve to see what they think might be wrong with it. Okay. Next, they give a diagnosis. So in this case, the students might have observed that the light was not on. So this light is dark. It's not shining. So that would be the problem with the system. And they diagnose the fact that the battery and the wires, as they are currently positioned, are giving the energy a path to go directly from one end of the battery terminal to the other without actually passing through the light. So we teach this concept as the energy in the battery has a path to follow where it doesn't have any work to do. Work being, lighting up a light, going through a resistor or anything like that. So it is dangerous. So the short circuit is the content here, and the short circuit occurs when the electrical energy flows on an unintended path. So a path you didn't want it to go on, and it can be dangerous. So the physical card looks like this, that's related to this concept. And you can see printed on the card an example of a short circuit right there, so the light doesn't shine, or a short circuit here where there is nothing plugged in. So this example here does not have, it looks more like this one where the energy doesn't even have to go through the light. And when they view it under their app, it'll look like this. So it'll show the energy getting cut off as soon as that second wire is added, or if that piece is removed, the energy is going ahead and skipping that piece as well. So that is the example of the short circuit, which they have worked through in the previous lesson. And now they're looking for it as a source of problems in their circuits. This is often something that in the physical land, if the students did this with their battery, it can actually become hot, melt things, become dangerous, right? So these actually gives them an opportunity to work through some concepts that would be not the best to do live in the classroom, but we can demonstrate in AR pretty nicely. Next, they would have to explain their answer. I've already started on that, right? So explaining their answer would be to tell you that energy is flowing on an unintended path. And so maybe they draw. So within the app, you can take screenshots. There's a screenshot button. They could take a screenshot of what they see if you wanted them to document their process and draw on it and write up some of these steps. And I actually have something to work through on that coming up here in just a minute as well. And last, they fix it. So to fix it, they're going to remove that wire that is going to the same side of the light bulb. So take that wire off and draw a new wire on the screen to connect it. So if you are doing that in the app, you can do the same thing by touching the screen. You pull off one wire, sliding across the app, and draw a new wire into the light bulb terminal to light up the light, and then boom, you have that. And then you could have the students again will demonstrate their work by showing the energy flow now that they've corrected. And now the path goes through the light. So the corresponding materials that go with these class sets also have the engineering notebooks or sort of the troubleshooting worksheets for students to write, whether it's in a physical notebook. If you're adept at Google Slides, you can use them there. If you like Nearpod, use it in there. Or if you are a school district that annotates directly onto PDF, that's the format that the slides are delivered in. So all of these ways can lead to some pretty nice as well writing exercises. So, here's an example of a slide or a worksheet that the students can work on for writing. So what did they observe? What did they diagnose? How do they explain it? What can they fix? And you can have screenshots or drawings of what they see go in these spaces as well. So just another example of a troubleshooting exercise. This also is an example of a short circuit. So, practice, observe. What do we see here? Again, the light's not lit up, appears to be dark. Diagnose. Well, it looks like the light again has a path to flow on that doesn't force it up into that light bulb. It can just shortcut it between the two leads of the LED and return right to the battery. So again, what would that look like in the troubleshooting workshop? Well, I observed that my LED isn't lighting up. I think the problem is that there's a short circuit. Draw the problem here. There's an extra wire. There can be some labeling of the screenshots. And then that's what they say. There's a wire between the legs, so the energy takes that path. After I remove the wire, the LED lights up. So you can see here it's light up as they've removed that wire that's between the two leads of. And up it goes through the LED and around and back. So the troubleshooting process is also very nice and flexible to many other things outside of circuits. So again, Dr. Pixel here is indicating that this process is useful outside of working in the circuit-specific environment. And the villain says, oh no, what other problems can these newly trained students troubleshoot? And this would be where we can demonstrate many other careers out there in STEM and technology and related fields that utilize this process, whether it's the cable repair person that's coming in to figure out why your internet and cable's not working, or it's the doctor at the doctor's office, the IT professional, the mechanic. All of them are working within, or scientists are working within systems and trying to diagnose, explain, and fix them. So it's a really great skill as well to translate. So any questions or thoughts or feedback to that, the troubleshooting?
There, nope, no questions in the Q&A. Again, everyone, please feel free, if you have a question during the presentation and you want to get it answered quickly, just drop it in the question and answer forum there. There's a little Q&A button in the bottom of your control panel, and I'd be happy to answer it while Amanda's talking. Wonderful.
All right, so that's the part where the students learn, practice, and get some repetition in a way that is working with materials that can feel authentic, can demonstrate the scientific principles, but would be very hard to replicate in a physical setting. So just imagine trying to set up, 20 instances of a little broken circuit so the students can fix it and then give them another 20 instances, right? It's infeasible in the classroom, but it's a great way for students to practice and learn these scientific concepts around energy and circuits. All right, so that's one piece. The other piece is the collaborative design, even if the students are remote. So this is, again, a piece that's pretty flexible to the content. It's located in what we call the create space. So from that original menu, instead of tapping challenge, you tap create, and that takes you into a space where you can use these materials to solve any circuit problem that you have already in your curriculum, or you can use the one that's designed to go along with the slides and content that we provide. So that's what I'm showing here, is we have Anne, and she's sitting on a piece of paper that features a drawing of the problem that I'm about to introduce. Again, the materials come with the printables that align with this. So here's an example of something you'd print out for the students to work and draw on, if that's your flavor of getting them started, where they can prototype out on paper some of the designs they're going to build, or document something that they've done in AR for you as well. So this sort of planar map here, as well as the engineering design notebook, where we follow the design processes that are highlighted in the standards. So setting goals, being held to criteria or constraints, and kind of checking your design against those criteria or constraints. So in this case, the story is that Anne would like there to be 3 watch areas around the village, that if the villain is seen, they can trigger an alarm for her to know that the villain's in the area. So that was what the students would be given as a goal. And there's a couple criteria that'll come up here in a minute, but this might be some design that the students would draw up first. So they're given some constraints down here. You have 1 battery, you have 3 switches, you have 1 light bulb, and you have 1 buzzer that are available to you for you to use in your design. And here might be a student's first try at a design, right? And you might think that looks great. However, what she wants is for you to be able to flip a switch right here, flip the switch, and have the light up to warn her at her central station. But if the other 2 stations have their switches off still, flipping this 1 switch is not going to get the light turned on in this case. So this would be a great first idea, but through testing, you'd figure out that this idea does not work. You have to change your design a little bit to get that to work. So here is an example of another design. Instead of 3 switches and 1 light bulb, now we have 3 light bulbs and 1 switch. So an example of working through sort of the prototype and testing stage, students were asked to see if their alarm could warn and quickly. So that's kind of use electricity. And then that each of the 3 different locations can warn her. And that would be something that we check against, right? So we can warn and quickly. The location 2 here can flip the switch, but there's nothing for location 1 or location 3 to actually indicate to Anne that they have a problem or that they've cited the villain. So again, this is another design that wouldn't pass the 3 locations test because it's the location 1 and 3 are not able to warn her. We could continue down and say, yes, we used 1 battery, we used 1 switch, we used 3 light bulbs. Oh, so we passed on that and that, but we used 3 light bulbs, which you didn't have available. So again, we actually didn't pass the sort of materials constraint either. So prototype needs to be modified, fix it, troubleshoot it, figure out what's going on. And the example, one of the possible solutions, and there's more than 1 possible solution, would be shown here, where each location had their own switch. Each location is wired to both the battery and the light bulb. And so when any switch is flipped at any of these 3 different sites, the light will turn on centrally. There's obviously other solutions because we didn't use a buzzer in this. So you could have a buzzer in here to do something slightly different, but this would pass all three of those that we've put on it. And the students are able to test and modify their designs quickly and without, blowing the light bulbs out or melting anything. And then, they can even take it and get it approved, or you can include a budget element of it as well, which was demonstrated in the notebook, to extend that to other concepts that you wanted to address. Okay, so again, we can try this out if you'd like to. Just try it on your screen in the app. We're going to tap on the create session instead. And this is going to be available to you, so you can try this at home as well or separately from the session. But you'd start the single player mode if you wanted to try it on your own. Or, we're even, any of the participants here today can join together if they do the join room. So if you wanted to try and see if anyone would join you in a collaborative area, you tap the join room and whoever did it would just throw the group code into a chat where your team members could get it and go into a room together. JJ and I, we could go into a room together if we wanted to work on our design project.
Yeah, I'll use the code JJP. Oh,
Well, it's going to give you one, JJ. So go into create here. Oops.
Create, new multiplayer. There we go. Okay, ZSKR. I'll throw that up in the chat. ZSKR.
So I'm going to join JJ's room, and it is up to 4 people can join. So if you want to jump in as the educator, keep your group sizes to 3, and you can always jump in. I'll jump in with JJ here. And now we're ready to go. I'm in the room with him.
Oh, I don't have the AND card in front of me.
You will in just a minute, JJ. There it is.
There it is.
So you can, again, just take your slide up.
There we go.
And she pops up there for you to see. All right, so we're trying to solve the problem that the students did. No, we won't. We aren't going to get that complicated. But again, I'm going to advance the slide, leave Anne where she is, and you'll see that there's other pieces in there that you can trigger. So JJ, why don't you, JJ put the switch in. Now he's flipping it back and forth. I'll put the light bulb in. And I'll put the battery in. So you tap the little lock button to add those items in. I saw JJ add one of them. I don't know if any of you are able to join with us. Oh, someone's drawing wires. Look at that. Now I'm going to actually, so once you add the items in, I was going to take away the cards because it's kind of hard to see it once you have the cards in there. But if you're playing this, you move those cards out of the way. Oh,
there we go.
And we connect these, boom, and tap to flip the switch. And so I've hit the lock button that was centered there on each of the 3 pieces and drew a wire from the terminal of the battery to the terminals of the switch, and the terminals of the switch to the light bulb to the battery. And then you can tap around the switch to turn it on and off.
There we go. And I know you mentioned taking the cards away, and you can, but the AND card has to stay, right?
The AND card, yep. So if you move the AND card around, how fancy can I be here? If I move the AND card around, then the whole thing will slide with it. Yeah. Right. So you'd slide those cards away, which allows you to replicate. You can put multiple light bulbs in there with only one light bulb card. Yep. And so somebody is experimenting. They moved the wire to the other side of the switch, which rendered the switch useless, which is a good exercise to play. So again, either you're able to do that with us right now, or you can try it on your own later. Ooh, and I could also put in here, I'm going to create a problem here. This is going to be bad. I was going to create a short circuit for us. Where we have see the fire. If you do create a short circuit in this area, it will
Oh,
at
there
the
it
bottom.
is.
Oh, there's the battery burning. Okay. All right. So we're having all kinds of fun, JJ. Huh? Hopefully our participants are getting a chance to try as well. All right. So we really focus on the materials to make sure that that emphasizes those other important elements of daily life in the classroom. So how do we hit some of the literacy standards? We call out opportunities for journaling, call out opportunities to make presentations of your design, to reflect on your activities, evaluate the performance of your activities, and of course, learn scientific vocabulary. We also know that STEM is an excellent venue for the SEL skills that are so critical for our kids these days. So lots of opportunities for teamwork, developing self-efficacy, growth mindset, having a purpose, being motivated. The kids really enjoy that, communicating with their teammates, leadership. There is absolutely opportunities for students to think different ways to get to the same answer. So resolving those conflicts, looking at solutions, reason, judgment, cause and effect, and critical thinking, all elements that are readily on display here in these activities as we have them. Another thing I wanted to demonstrate, so what we've seen so far is really using the augmented reality side of things without having any physical materials. So you could have an end-to-end engineering design project where it's all digital, which obviously is pretty cost effective and easy to set up and clean up relative to some of the other ways to do circuits. So I've worked with both with children and especially remote. I know it's very challenging to get physical materials to go to do what it's supposed to do. However, I also want to highlight how it is nice to use integrated with physical builds as well. So just a quick look at, one challenge you can give students is how are you going to light up two different LEDs? And so, lots of circuit lessons, identify series versus parallel connections. I think it's really easy to see parallel, which may be difficult to visualize with the physical materials, but we can see here how the parallel connections are wired versus series connections in connecting these two LEDs. So you can also use this as a starting place to move into something like squishy circuits. So here's the design that I created in augmented reality. How do I translate that to my squishy circuits, for example? So this is some student work where they took a screenshot of their design, and then they, using some of their PDF editors, drew on it to indicate, okay, I need to have a wire here, and then I need to have the conductive Play-Doh here. I need to make sure I have the non-conductive clay in between those, and then another blob of Play-Doh. And if you've done squishy circuits, you'll recognize, this element, or just using clay and Play-Doh as conductive and non-conductive materials for an experiment. And then even inside the app, you can compare your design here. So again, this is actually looking through the camera of the app at the AND card, and sitting next to the AND card in real space is this real circuit with the pieces that line up with the pieces that you're seeing on the design. So that's a nice demonstration of the complement of AR and physical design activities. Students love to extend beyond the projects that we give them. So this was a student that, I was doing a Zoom session class with some students, and afterwards she was just really lingering after the other students had left, and she's like, I'm just trying to get, finish this up and get it working. And so she sent me the screenshots of what she was working on, and she had created this convoluted but really cool circuit where she used pretty much all the pieces that were available in there. And she said, and then the comment that she sent to me here as well, just and highlighting the enrichment activities that are also possible for your high-end students in the classroom. The session resources are going to be available. They already have in there this slide deck. It has the curriculum or excuse me, it will have some of the papers that we point to. I'm actually going to have JJ point you to the curriculum, lesson plan, and slides that are available at the PASCO website. So where I will point you is to our YouTube channel and to a folder that has this slide deck and a couple of the papers that we reference. And then inside the PASCO website is where you can find the curriculum, lessons, plans, and slides that I'll click onto here really quickly with an overview. So within the lesson plans that are accompanying this is five lessons that are approximately 45 to 60 minutes, depending on how you stretch them. And they can be longer than that, of course, if you let the kids really have time to explore. We have and then I have this map. So here's the lessons, and then it maps to the app. So in the app, there's the challenges sections on energy and complete circuits. Go with lesson 1. Lesson 2 really focuses on the create space. Lesson 3, again, goes back into the challenges to look at a second set of complete circuits and short circuits. Lesson 4 goes into switches and some challenges around the switches, and then some create space at the end. So that's how the lessons map out. Each of the lessons has the standards highlighted at the top. Here's the high level of it. So the standards that are covered, as well as the sessions and what they address, each of them. And this is in your PASCO experiment library, pasco.com.
Amanda, there was a really good question that just cropped up. It was, do you have other topics? Do you have other topics available other than energy and circuits?
Oh, see, that's a good question, because that's they like that and want more, right, JJ?
That's right.
We are working on more, but this is our solo set right now. So we would love to hear what you would want as a next set. What potential do you see? What topics do you think would lend themselves well to this AR framework? We did actually, within the grant, design the app to be flexible to other topics. So the idea of troubleshooting and systems, sort of putting on different, what we call skins, or your kids will call skins on the pieces, so that they work in different systems, but we have not developed those yet. Other supporting materials. So I showed you the lesson plans. We have the engineering design notebooks, which are completely separate. They are not tailored only to our lesson plans. They're flexible to be used to any engineering design process or goal. There is very colorful slides that feature the characters, and they are, and you can annotate on them, like I've demonstrated through Nearpod or a PDF editor. And then there's also a series of what we call STEM Possible with Dr. Pixel. So there you can see a familiar face there, right? That are also integrated within the lesson plans. So these are all materials that would be shared with the students, and so something that builds out the topics from today, but more time on each of them are some webinars that we put together with the Boston Museum of Science. So talking more about troubleshooting, and actually has our professor, Monica Cardella, featured in those sessions around just more of the energy focused area, as well as the engineering design. So those are also available on our Mindlabs YouTube channel. So looks like there's another one. I don't know if you got it.
No, it was just Juan was just saying thank you.
You're welcome, Juan. Okay, so we have, just to seed your thoughts on how this could be used. It's targeted to ages 3 to 5, energy and science and engineering practices. You could use it pre and post lab, so pre-lab experience or pre-hands-on to do the design work, or post work to do extensions. Can be a free choice activity as well. So this is kind of like with your existing content. This would be, go spend some free time working with the app, or the lesson plans in the more structured setting. Home use, remote, or collaborate, all work together. It helps on the safety front. It helps on the setup and cleanup front, and also gives your students some outlet to experiment or have that twinkle of mischief without getting into too much trouble with those those concepts. And then as well on the teaching side, it helps with the visualization, imagination, and giving the students some chance or some repetition on those concepts. I think, JJ, it may be a good time to pause for some last questions. I'm gonna pull up the Q&A slide here, which I didn't catch that you were gonna share the link, so I threw it up here at the very end on the session quiz link.
Oh, perfect. No, that's
There.
fine. Yeah,
Is that good?
Yep, that'll work. Yeah, that's the so anybody who wants to get a certificate of completion, if you go to that link, bit.ly/energy-circuits-quiz, there's a short quiz you take, and once you pass the quiz, then you will be given a certificate of completion. And then the last thing I want to show, I'll give everyone maybe another second or two to write down or type in or get that link off that slide right there. Is I want to show you, Amanda pointed out all of the amazing resources that go with it, with the product itself, the lesson plans, the lessons themselves, the different resources, the different manipulatives for students. Those are all available not only on the Explore or Mindlabs website, but it's also available on the PASCO.com website. And so I'm going to sneakily steal back sharing.
All yours.
And I think if I do this,
You got it.
There we go. Yes. So if you just go to, oops, I have a bunch of, you can't see it, but I have a bunch of Zoom windows cluttering. There we go. If you go to pasco.com and just go in the keyword search box and you type in Mindlabs, it will bring you the 3 different products that you can buy, the Mindlabs products, including a class set that Amanda mentioned earlier. And so if you click that, let me just go to the class set here. It'll take you to the product page. And so this is the product page. And over here under experiments, if you click on experiments, it'll take you to a collection of the experiments and resources that are available. And there's everything right there. So here's the lesson overview for the teacher. Here's the design notebook. And then here are the 5 different lessons right here. And if you click on any of these 5 lessons, let's say Beware the Short, it'll take you to the student files and of course the teacher files, but we don't put the teacher files up just so every student can go in and grab them. You have to sign in as a teacher and it's free. You don't have to, you know, buy anything or to gain access to these files. You just have to have one of our web store accounts, like I said, which is free. So let me just type this in.
Fuzzy Bunny 1, 2, 3, right? JJ?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the combination of my luggage. Yeah, but once you've logged into your account, when you go to access those lessons, so now if I go back, you'll see here the teacher files are available, and I can click on one of these and bring it up and show you. So this is the actual lesson set, and then the teacher files are here. And they include all those resources like standards, correlations, and procedures and suggestions for the instructor. So yeah, it's all there. And yes, that is it. You already shared this. Once again, this is the link to the quiz, just in case you didn't grab it a second ago. That's all I have. So I'll hand it back over to you, Amanda, for anything to follow up.
No, we're excited to have the opportunity to share it with you. You'll see that you could also reach me. I'm at Dr. Pitzel at Explore Explore Support as well. So it's another name I have out there that you can get to reach out to me. And otherwise, we're happy to take any questions or comments online or offline. And thanks for spending your afternoon with us today.
Awesome. And thank you, Amanda, for taking the time to walk us through this. This was amazing. Thank you.
My pleasure. Have a great night.
Yep.
Or afternoon, you West Coasters.
So the link to the, can you please send the link of the presentation? So the link, yes.
It is in that folder same bit.ly front end, and then energy/circuits, energy-circuits-resources instead of quiz.
Let me just type it in here. So I have it. I don't have it. bit.ly/energy-circuits-resources. There we go. That should work. And then if you're looking for the recording of this presentation, after the presentation is concluded, I think it might be not be until tomorrow, you'll receive an email that has a link to the recording.
Actually, you know what, JJ? It looks like that got linked to a very specific place. Let me give you another not so short link that is going to get to them to the right place.
Okay.
Hold for a moment, because that it does get you to a place where you can try, but it's not the slide deck that we just did, and that one is a little bit nicer than. Okay. Yeah. Get it for us here. This is only for those who hang on till the very end, right?
That's right.
Okay. I'm having to dig it out here. And okay, I'm gonna throw it in the chat. Good thing I tested that. Where's my chat box? There we go. To everybody. There it is. Try that one instead.
All right, let's try that one.
Yeah.
There we go. That's
There we
better.
go.
Perfect. And so we'll that link will also be, I think the follow-up email has not only the link to the recording, but to the quiz for those of you that participated. And then this link will be there too, to the resources.
I will make sure that you guys have that.
Perfect. Well, I think I could probably stop recording. Let me go ahead and do that.